When we are continuing to talk about the reasons Mwenda raised about the Uganda's treasury bonds or the Uganda's debt, especially when it comes to the government's ability to pay, we needed to start paying attention to something that is extremely very important that has been happening. Since last year, the government and Bank of Uganda announced the plan to start buying Uganda's gold, local gold manufactured in Uganda, using the local currency. Now, you know, when it comes to globally, all the different central banks, all the different central bank managers, one of the store of value, one of the way they can back their currency is through gold reserves. And there was a time when the only way you could, majority of the times when you could back your local currency was through the gold, the US dollar reserves. But many countries are starting to move towards the gold as one of their ways to back their reserves and their local currency and the strength of their local currency. And we started seeing it 3-4 years ago. And one thing that helped Ghana to come out of their that period when they almost defaulted, or where they actually defaulted, was the ambitious plan they took over to start the Bank of Uganda to start buying gold using SEDI. Now, when you buy local gold locally and you're buying it using local currency, while using it to back the foreign currency reserves, it gives your currency stability. So when 2.5 years ago, at that time he was the acting governor, now the full substantive governor, when he announced that the Bank of Uganda is going to start buying gold in Uganda from the different artisans in Mubende, in Karamoja, and they're going to buy it using the local currency. At that point, it didn't make sense until when I had to go through some of the conversations and the understanding, because of the conversation Andrew Mwenda brought in, was to understand, wait a minute, the purchase of gold using our local currency is literally to strengthen the Ugandan currency against the foreign currency. It's a fundamental move, because all of a sudden you are spending the UGX you have control over to stock up something that you can measure on against the US dollar. So that means the only way, because gold can be exchanged internationally as part the form where you can exchange it with gold with dollars. And I remember one time I was at NTV with Dr. Muhumuza, and he was talking about that the future of exchange is there are certain countries that are starting to move away from the US dollar, or they don't want to rely so much on the US dollar. And that's where one way they are looking at it is to start paying attention to how the dollar, the gold, can help them have an edge, even if it's that small, against the dollar. And the gold is one way. The gold purchases that Bank of Uganda embarked on, I don't know how far they have bought in, is one way that gives us an edge on that regard. And for you to understand how it will work, you have to pay attention to how that if at any one point they need to pay off the dollar loans, they can use they can use gold. They would have spent the UGX, it will strengthen the UGX, and then they can pay off the loans for the future, because Ghana actually used that method for them to be in a position to pay off the loans. So the stocking up of gold is a master stroke. It's a master stroke that kind of ensures at any one point we have significant import cover, dollar cover, or anything that we can easily exchange, that can make our currency stable. Yes, because previously, if you had to import, think about it this way, if you had to import $1 billion worth of dollars of things from China or from the outside Uganda, you had to pay US dollars. So you must earn them. You must always have a minimum 4 months of import cover. That's the recommended. Now, when you have gold and you have bought it locally, that gold can be an equivalent, can give you an equivalency of the US dollar. That you did not spend gold, you did not spend your hard currency to buy the US dollar, but you literally bought the gold locally, using a local currency to back the local currency, but you can use that gold to pay for the imports or to back up your gold reserve, dollar reserves, which is a master stroke in that regard. I know they didn't explain it that well, and I know I might be far-fetching here to say that that was what they were trying, that's what they're trying to do. But at a time when the government is, indeed borrowing significantly, at one time when they need to pay, if they have significant gold reserves, they can just issue gold and they will pay off all the dollar loans. And that's what actually Ghana did. In so many other countries, you have such minerals, you can pay, you are strong. So when you see Bank of Uganda buying off gold, it's one other way, one other measure that they are using to hedge against the rising debt. Now, I'm not saying that the debt is not rising. All I'm saying is that the debt is not in a crisis situation the same way we want to portray it as. It's not yet there. Why? Because of the factors that we see and we can easily analyze and say, no, it's not, we are not in that crisis situation. We are not. Is there something that needs to be done? Absolutely, yes. And the fact that when we think about oil, when oil comes, it's going to put so much pressure on the country to have significant infrastructure project. And those they will need to spend. And government is about to issue an infrastructure bond, it was about to issue a diaspora bond, it's about to issue all these different types of bonds, which in simple terms, they are about to borrow more, especially domestically. Domestic bonds, domestic debt, which will be both in UGX and USD. But the master stroke of them stocking up gold reserves is one thing, because when you think about, because one of the things you have to appreciate is we have to look at and say, how did Ghana get out of the gutters? And what is Uganda doing to make sure they never get into those same gutters? And this is where it becomes interesting, because now all of a sudden we know what Ghana did to get out of the gutters. Apart from IMF lending them money, apart from restructuring, they had to stock up significant amount of gold. They had to actually source it locally. For at a moment, they had to even put a pause on gold exports, especially locally sourced gold. Now in Uganda, gold is one of our foreign exchange earner. The gold we export significantly in Dubai. But some of that gold we don't know, or we know where it comes from. So you cannot say where it comes from because I don't have the records, but we know it's not sourced in Uganda. However, the ability to buy gold that is sourced in Uganda from Ugandan artisans and you are paying the UGX, it means you are strengthening the UGX. At the same time, you are creating a hedge element that can be very protective for the country in the future. You must see those things that way, and that way you will see the benefit of doing it this way. It's a master stroke. So, how much will they buy? How will it protect us against the problems in the future? We are yet to see. We shall see. But that's one other thing you have to look at. And this, I say it for the investors who are invested in the gold, in the treasury bond, to get another element that can give them comfort on saying, yes, we are good to go.